Yeah, we're back here in day 2. Yesterday, some of you may have been in this very room when we talked about agents for admissions and some of the work we're doing there. And today we're going to talk more about our student success features, leveraging agents there, but we also want to talk a little bit about our courses data model. If you were at Engage last year in Raleigh, there we announced our courses data model and some upcoming LMS integrations. Those are now available and live for those of you on the new Student Success AI Workforce team. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too, because a lot of the power for the agents comes from that data. So let's jump right in. So as we know, for those of you working in advising or retention efforts at institutions, student support is at a breaking point, right? We've got advisors with way too many advisees, sometimes 300-400 students that they're supposed to be advising. I don't care how great of an advisor you are, especially when everybody wants to see you in the same 2-week time period, right? That is nearly an impossible task. Advising appointments can sometimes take 2 to 4 weeks. You call that financial aid office, and you're on hold for hours, right? So these are all things that we can leverage agents like we've been talking about since yesterday in the student success space. For those of you in the room, these numbers will not be a shock to you because you're living this every day, but only national averages here. Only 80% of students at a 4-year institution will return for year 2. Obviously, there are ones higher and lower. At a 2-year school or a community college, that number dips down to 60%. And on the first-gen side, on a 4-year institution, only 68%. So there's additional populations that we need to be accounting for, right? Now, what's interesting about the first-gen number is a decade ago, that was below 60%. And why is that? Because a lot of our institutions have implemented programs and special support for first-generation students. But not every student is in that cohort and getting that specialized attention. So what if we could leverage agents and leverage a system like Element 451 to empower the support for those other students that maybe aren't in a special support program and be able to lift those numbers by 6 or 8 points. So student success at scale requires AI. There's no way we can do more with less unless we're leveraging AI and the power of our agents. But those agents need to be informed by the relevant data. And that's where the new courses data model and the LMS and SIS integrations come into play. So if you are on the student success team for the IA workforce, today you are able to connect Canvas, D2L Brightspace, or Blackboard to Element and start receiving data around student enrollments, courses, and sections. And we're just wrapping up some work on an SIS connection for Ellucian Ethos. So that'll allow you to bring in that course data from either Banner or Colleague. And we're also working on an additional LMS, Open LMS, and that'll be coming out later this summer. So these integrations, again, allow you to really bring in that data around courses, sections, and enrollments. So at the top level, we have the course piece, and if you've been managing course catalogs and that sort of thing, all of this will sound really familiar, right? So you've got the top level courses, the name, the description, what department it's associated with, how many credits that course is worth, the grading model for that, is it pass fail, is it a number grade, letter grade, etc. Then underneath courses, We've got sections that are associated with those courses. This is where we're tying, the actual class session with a term, instruction modes, instructors, that sort of thing. So as we're feeding in the instructor information, now this allows us to power some of this data, right? And say, hey, your instructor is Eric Range for that Films of Steven Spielberg course that you're taking. And then lastly, down to the student level, where we can get some of the student signals for enrollments. So a student is tied to a section is tied to a course. Right now, and depending on which integration you're using, they are all have a little bit of a different structure, and the data that's actually available in some of these is a little different, but we can capture that student's current grade, their final grade, and last login activity. So you can see, hey, Eric hasn't logged into the LMS in 2 weeks. That's a real problem, right? If particularly on an 8-week semester or even a 15-week semester, not logging into the LMS for 2 weeks is a signal that somebody should be raising, right? So that's the data model that allows us to power the information around courses. So with that, we've got some agents working, and if you've been following us for a while, you've seen many of these agents in action already, right? These reactive agents where students can come in, talk to a career advisor, a campus life advisor, academic advisor, however you want to set those up with the knowledge base that you're kind of scoping. And as we said during the keynote, these will only get smarter over the next year or so as we expand the types of knowledge that you can include there. But those agents in the past, of course, have always been students reaching out in chat or on SMS and seeking that help. But, right, we want to be proactive. We want to see those signals, and we want to get the agents to the students in a really personal way when their activity or lack of activity is driving the conversation. And one of the other tools we have available that we launched last fall and we announced at Engage last year is StudentHub, which is that app that they can put right on their phone. They can access it from any website and get information right in their pocket where they are, push notifications, tasks assigned to the student, and so on and so forth. So really important that they have a home base, a landing spot where they know they can go and get a lot of this information. So in StudentHub, we've got My Network, the agents, Bolt Discovery, which is our AI answer engine, push notifications, that course data we're bringing in from the LMS and SIS now, the ability to interface directly with appointments, student tasks, and of course, that's a self-loaded app. So let's take a look at some of this stuff inside of Element, and we can explore a little bit about how we're unlocking some of the success cases right now today. So the first thing that has come along with StudentHub and the courses data model is some new profile cards that are built specifically around some of this student success data. So now we've got a courses card that you can drop in on your Bolt profiles and as an advisor have that be a custom view for that where you don't need to see their admissions application information. You don't need to see some of the other things that may have been front and center for other employees. So we've got courses. You can dive in here and see what courses they're enrolled in, get a little more information. The other card that we have is the network card there on the right-hand side of the screen. And that network, again, expands the notion of a single assignee, which is more of a territory management admissions model, where now the networks, you guys can say, hey, here's a whole group of people who is available to support you. Your financial aid counselor, your academic advisor, maybe some residence life staff members who are connected with that student. And you as an employee and user of Element can actually see that whole network. So when you're chatting with a student and you say, hey, contact the financial aid office, right here in Element, you can say, oh, you need to talk to Eric, or you need to talk to whomever. So that's a great piece here in the profile that you guys have been kind of using on a regular basis. Here in courses, so if you come to data and automations now, we've got this new courses piece in the menu, and you can actually come in and see the individual courses information here. So when we load from the LMS, this will actually be read-only information, so you're only getting what's in the LMS. But here's those courses you can see here at the bottom. AI for marketing, Artis is teaching 2 sections of that. And if we drill down a little further, we can then come in and actually see the individual enrollments. So Patrick here is, Patrick here is in this particular section for this particular term, and we can see information on his last attended date, that last LMS activity, and what his current grade is. And all of this information you can use to build segments. So just like you might previously have built a segment for communication workflow, or now with Bolt Jobs, you can say, hey, I want to find all students whose current grade in the midpoint of the semester is a C or below, so we can connect them with resources. Does that all make sense? So you've got a lot more power now in Element to drive these success signals, which don't require a faculty member to actually go push a button, right? All those old school early alert systems, right, rely on somebody going, I haven't seen Eric in 2 weeks, right? I have an older brother who's a chemistry professor. The last thing he will ever do is send an early alert, right? That's just not his bag. But the connection there is we've got the data. People shouldn't have to push that button now, right? Rather than when we have that information right at our fingertips. So now you can automate all of that with segmentation. So that's the courses data model and the information that's available. Over time, we'll be expanding the amount of data we're bringing in from the LMS, adding things like assignment data and that sort of thing, so we can even get more granular in the types of information that we have going there. Transitioning a little bit, I wanted to share a little bit about Bolt Discovery and how that agent, that search agent, can support students in their journeys on campus. How many of you are using Bolt Discovery already? Okay, a few of you. So Bolt Discovery can really be that site search replacement where instead of going to that Google site search and finding a lot of things that aren't particularly relevant for search, they can get their questions answered in real time in a conversational way. So let's take a look at what a student might ask Discovery here. I'm a history major. What minors? So what's happening here is Discovery is going through our entire knowledge base and finding that information. That could be your website, that could be a course catalog that you've loaded to your knowledge base, and now we're seeing, hey, here's some history major, as a history major, here are some good minor options, right? So this is a conversation that you might have with an advisor, but it's not a particularly deep conversation, right? So this might be something that just by talking with Discovery, the student can find their path forward here. So let's, peace and conflict. Sounds interesting. So here, again, we're pulling more information. This actually is connected to a course catalog piece. so we can get more information. If the Wi-Fi in here was better, we'd be getting more information on this particular thing. So here we're pulling a lot of that course catalog information, sharing it. Now, even in these two steps, how many of you think that this is 1,000 times faster than trying to find this information on your website today? Yes, right? And we can even go a little deeper than that. Here we are seeing some career options. So tell me more about being a policy analyst. And what we've done in our knowledge base here is we've actually connected this to a careers database that pulls all of this information, and that with our web scraper you can do that, point it to this type of database, and they can get this information on how this minor connects with career outcomes, and even ask things like, what salary might I be able to expect, and what else should I do to prepare for that career. So now in one discovery session, we've really taken a meeting with an academic advisor or a faculty member talking about a minor, and we've talked to somebody in career services, right, who's said, hey, if you do this, you can become a policy analyst, you can become these other things, and giving them some of those outcomes, right? Median salaries and those sorts of things. So discovery is a really powerful way of getting students the information that they need in a really conversational way, and they're not hunting and pecking around our institutions. And I know when this first was released, I would go down these rabbit holes and just start clicking on these follow-ups, and pretty soon it's like the 2025 version of a Wikipedia rabbit hole, right, where you just keep clicking down, clicking down, clicking down. So this is a really powerful tool for students who just need information whenever they need it. So that is Bolt Discovery. So let's look at a little bit of a different scenario here with leveraging jobs and our AI agents for the student success use case, right? So we'll take a few minutes and just look at how this job is set up, and the very simple instructions that we're giving Luca, our academic advisor agent here, in preparing students for checking in on their midterm grades, right? So we've assigned our AI academic advisor, Luca, to this. We're going to use all three channels: email, SMS, and a phone call. And here's some very simple instructions. Again, in these instructions, the idea is these are just the instructions you would give if you were telling, hey, Brendan, I need you to make this phone call, or I need you to reach out to this student, and this is what you need to do or say, right? So we're contacting the students with midterm grades below 2.0 in one or more of their classes. And I'm actually giving, in this example, I'm giving different instructions depending on the channel, right? So I'm saying, hey, when you reach out on text message, I want you to be really direct and basically tell them to get their butt to a tutoring session, right? But when you make that phone call, let's be a little more open-ended. We can be a little more exploratory in that conversation. And then lastly, I'm just saying, hey, offer tutoring services, but we also have other campus resources that might be helpful to them. So, if they talk about a specific issue or a specific concern, we can connect them with those resources as well. And all of those resources loaded in your knowledge base. So, we have academic tutoring, we have time management workshops, whatever resources at your institution that might be available. Maybe they say, I'm not doing well because I have a food insecurity issue. We can recommend, whether it's a food pantry or other resources on campus for that as the student raises those issues. And in this case, right, the goal here is scheduling an appointment. We want the student to schedule a tutoring appointment, and we want to drive them to that activity. That's our goal. And to do that, we've got one and only one action, which is promote that particular appointment scheduling action. So let's see how Luca does here with this very simple set of instructions. So we'll come in here. Now, I'm manually triggering this, but of course you could, and I just realized I'm on Do Not Disturb, so I want to make sure I don't miss my phone call. So I've manually added this, but you'll see that we actually had a segment there that, just like you might trigger a traditional communication workflow, you'll have the ability to enroll people automatically as those courses signals come into play. And I think I just missed my call. Nope, that's not Element University. Well, here we've got the text message telling me to, hey Jed, it's Luca, the AI Academic Advisor from Element University. We've noticed you're having some issues in organic chemistry. We can offer tutoring services that can help to improve your grades. Please schedule an appointment at your earliest convenience, and the link is right there. I'm going to try and see if I can kick off another one. The advantage of having so many Eric Ranges in here is that my phone number is attached to about 100 people in this instance, so it'll be easy to see if we can get the phone call to trigger a second time here. And if that doesn't work, I'll play you a recording of one I did this morning. There's the text message. And there we are.
With Patrick Cook, please.
This is Patrick.
Hi, Patrick. This is Luca, the AI Academic Advisor from Element University. I'm just checking in to see how you're feeling about your courses this semester. I understand you might be struggling a bit with organic chemistry. We've got excellent tutoring services, including one-on-one sessions with Eric Range, who specializes in organic chemistry. You can also access group study options, academic coaching, and online support anytime. Would you like to schedule a tutoring appointment with Eric? Or maybe hear about other support resources?
Yeah, you know, I'm having a little bit of a struggle because I'm so busy. I just don't always know when to do all of my, my coursework.
I understand. Balancing coursework and a busy schedule can be tough, especially in your first year. Along with tutoring, we also offer academic coaching that can help you with time management and study strategies. Would you like to set up a tutoring appointment with Eric? Or would you rather start with an academic coaching session to work on organizing your time?
No, I think let's go ahead and schedule that appointment with Eric Range because he's a really smart guy, so I'll probably learn some stuff from him.
Great choice. Eric is excellent at breaking down tough chemistry concepts. Do you have a preferred date or time for your tutoring session? Maybe mornings or afternoons? I can check Eric's availability.
We should probably do it as soon as possible because that D is haunting me at night.
Got it. Let's aim for the soonest available slot with Eric so we can tackle that D right away. Do mornings work for you since you prefer that time?
Yeah, that's great. Let's do the first one.
All right. The earliest available time with Eric is tomorrow, Thursday, June 26th at 9 a.m. Eastern. Would you like to book the 9 to 9:30 a.m. slot, or does a slightly later time work better for you?
That's perfect. Let's book it.
All set. Your tutoring session with Eric Range is booked for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern.
Thanks,
You'll
Luca.
also get a text with...
So, and Luca sent me my text message so I can confirm my appointment and move right in. And of course, we get a great little summary here in Conversations for all of their staff member coworkers can come in and see what's happening with these conversations in real time. So here you can see the power of how agents, this idea of Bolt agents and Bolt jobs being able to work across all of our teams, admissions, success, and other use cases just simply by tweaking the instructions just a little bit, right? So really powerful stuff, and think about all of the things that this unlocks for all of you, right? Freeing up time as an academic advisor. It's one of the few roles I haven't had a lot of experience in on a campus, but think about if you can free up 20% of your day to really dive deep with students and connect with them and deal with their real issues instead of answering routine questions about when does registration open? And I tried to find this on the website, right? Half my day working in a college campus office was I was trying to find this on the website and I gave up. Can you tell me when this thing is or how to do that thing? And it's like, good Lord, just like, I want to be helping you with other things, right? Let's dive deep into the issues that you might be having. So that is Bolt Agents, Discovery, and StudentHub and courses, and how we can put all of that stuff together to really empower all of you to empower your students to succeed all the way through to graduation. Are there any questions? There's one in the back, and then we'll come over here.
Thanks. I was just wondering if there is opportunity in the example that you gave that if the student says, no, I don't want an appointment, that you could tell it, give it branching conditions. In other words, to say, if the person says no, they should do this, because if they're saying no, that might be an indication that they're not continuing. So can you build in like more complex workflows for it? Does it have it built in? How does that work?
So you can actually expand those instructions. So this is like a real paradigm shift too, and kind of how we think about configuring things in the platform, right? So for those of you who have built a lot of workflows and you do a condition check and then you do this thing and that thing, that's not how the Bolt agent jobs work. But you can just tell the agent, if the student says no, then this is a scenario you might want to consider, right? So you can do all of that in plain language now, and you're off to the races, right? So don't think of it as, oh, I have to think of every possible scenario and branching those out. One of the other actions that you can do, though, is actually enroll a student in a workflow. So if you have an existing workflow that has some of those conditions set up already, or you want to do other things that are more logically locked in like that, you can actually have the agent enroll that student in a workflow. And that's really powerful for a lot of reasons. So workflows, phone calls aren't dead, email's not dead, workflows aren't dead, right? There's just different ways to tackle those problems. From like a marketing and communication side, right? All of the Bolt agent generated emails look like emails that if you sat down in your Outlook or your Gmail and typed them out, they don't have hero images, they don't have institutional branding across the top. So there's an opportunity with the enroll and workflow piece is actually using those branded assets and have that workflow work alongside the other kinds of emails and the other kind of communications that the agent is working on as well. So they can work together in that way. So, okay, one more over there, and then we'll get to her over there. Perfect.
Yeah, hi. So we have our own tutoring system on campus, right? I'm sure so many others do. So if a student were to make an appointment, are there any integration plans, or how would that work with the third-party system?
So right now, all of this appointment scheduling piece is, looking at the native element appointments. If you're using a third party like Calendly or You Can Book Me or something like that, you would have to pass that signal in, which you may be able to do that with a Zap to actually book that appointment. And even if you're not using appointments, in Element, that you'd at least be able to get that booked signal, so the goal would be achieved. And in fact, if I come back to the job itself, you'd think I'd remember where it was in the menu. It's new, it's new. Ooh, that's the wrong one. Oh, it hasn't woken up yet to see that I scheduled the appointment. So that when the next time the Bolt job wakes up and the agent wakes up to see what it should do next, it will detect that Patrick has booked his appointment, and it'll actually change that to goal completed, because the goal was to get Patrick to schedule his appointment, and he's done that.
But if you go to Patrick's profile, will you see that he has an upcoming appointment scheduled?
Yes. Yep. All right, and the question over here.
Hi
Oh,
there.
okay.
I have a follow-up question to that question about the tutoring, and then two others. One is, can you integrate in such a way that the tutor could then indicate that the student went to the tutoring appointment? So
Yeah, so in our appointments module, there's a status, and one of those statuses is attended the appointment.
Okay,
Yep,
great.
yep.
And then two really quick things. One is going all the way back to the career exploration stuff. The scraper you referred to,
Yep.
is that something is automatically built in, or do we have to build that
Yeah,
in?
so in our knowledge base, you can point to any web property as either a website or a single URL. So in this case, you can go to, there's a couple of open databases out there that you can scrape, and all that information's kind of public domain. So as long as it doesn't require authentication, which there are some of those career management, how they get away with charging what they charge for basically open public information is shocking. But yeah, as long as it's not gated behind an authentication, you can point the knowledge base to grab that information for you.
And then last question, if a student in their native language told the agent that they don't understand English or they don't speak English, would it automatically shift?
Yes. So if you, on discovery, on chat, if the student either says, I don't speak English, talk to me in Spanish, or any number of languages, or if they just start talking in a non-English language, the agent will respond in that language. The one thing with voice, if you haven't attended some of the other voice things, we have two voice models that we're running right now. One is an experimental model, which is available to you. It's not quite as robust as the non-experimental ones. Those will actually hot swap between languages, and it's really kind of cool, right? There's some downsides to that model. There's also the English-only models, and they're releasing a Spanish-only model that's actually trained very robustly and works really well. So that model that you heard today on that phone call was the English-only one. So if I asked that to speak to me in Serbian, it wouldn't do it, right? So we got to you.
No worries. The join conversation button. How does that work?
So in conversations, so let's say that I am here in conversations. And let me find so here we've got a conversation that Casey, one of our agents, has been having with a student. And one of the things that as a staff member you can do is actually jump in on this conversation if you happen to be seeing it. And now you can jump in and you can start typing to that student in the live chat. One of the things that the agents can do across all of our channels is a team member handoff or a staff member handoff. So if the agent ever gets to a point where it doesn't know the answer, it doesn't think it can help the student, it will say, can I connect you with a staff member? And they say yes, and then we alert, well, you can set up rules on, assign this because it's a tutoring question, assign this to Eric. It's a financial aid question, assign that to Brendan. And then you'll be able to see that whole conversation that the agent had, plus join right in and work alongside. Yep. It depends on the channel that the conversation is on. So conversations covers all of think of it as one inbox, no matter what the channel is. So the little icons here tell you the channel. So this happens to be the web chat conversation. So that means the student was on talking through the website chat widget. Yep. But if it were SMS, when you respond, it'll send that student a text message. Yep. And of course, the web chat, so to speak, is also available in StudentHub, which is great for current students because if you chat there, the student will actually get it because they're not like, there's times where the student might close out the chat session, right? Whereas in StudentHub, it'll be preserved. So that's really great.
We use Moodle for our LMS. Are you planning to expand to Moodle at any point?
The short answer is, so OpenLMS is actually built on top of, it's a commercial version of Moodle. The short answer is we don't have a plan right away. As we finish up the work on OpenLMS, it may be a minor thing to do, but when we do the next one after OpenLMS, it will likely be Moodle, but we haven't set a firm date on when that's gonna be, and some of that will be informed with, do we have to start over and build one from the ground up for Moodle, or can we leverage some of the stuff we're using, or all of the stuff we're using for OpenLMS? So it's floating around out there, but nothing hard and fast at this point. I think we have time for one more, right?
Hi. So in the demonstration that you had with the tutoring example, if the tutor or the student was if it was a virtual appointment, and let's say at a Microsoft Teams environment, then how would the link be provided for that virtual appointment?
Yeah, so right now, the tutor would have to go in and add that link, that particular meeting link. There isn't an integration that will auto-generate those at the moment. That is certainly something we've got our eyes on as an improvement down the road, to be able to integrate with Teams and saying, okay, this is the link we need, or Google Meet, or other pieces. We've done our first kind of native Microsoft and Google appointments integration just recently with the calendar syncing. So, we're now through kind of those approval processes with Microsoft and Google to be able to do more of that. But that's certainly down the road at this point.